Morning, team. Hope you're doing well. It is 9:30 on a Tuesday. I am just trying to locate. It's my dad's birthday today. Happy birthday, Dad. 67. And I told my daughter that, and she did the whole 6-7 thing, and it annoyed me. I don't even think they know what that means. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's just there to annoy us, and it's working. I was trying to figure out what our version of that was, and I think it may have been Morning, Nige. Hope you're doing well. Craig's on his way. I think it might have been "Was Up" or something on those lines, but I don't think we had anything quite as annoying. But never mind. Like I said, Craig's on his way. Craig Graham from Alt Movement. I'm just making sure that the link is working for him. I'll resend it just in case. Copy. This whole going live thing. Interesting, eh? Back end. Got a really cool week, including obviously today's show. Where are we? We have got obviously the mighty. Send that again. Got the mighty Craig Graham on from Alt Movement now. Coach's Corner. We were talking about the adaptive scene in the UK. And where that's been, where it is, and where it's headed. So I'm really interested to talk about those things. Tonight, do you ever burst into song because of what you've said? Anyway, I was going to sing Queen. Tonight we have got Harry Keane on with Steve for the Defiant Show, and they will be talking hopefully to Gareth Waite, community sport manager, talking about the CrossFit teams division and what we can do more about that. Tonight I'm gonna have myself. That was what I was going to say, Nigel. That was what I was going to say. But yeah, we're talking to Gareth and Harry because Gareth, believe it or not, is a very good athlete, but also was a very good athlete and trained with Helen and Harry. Helen Nasser, of course, Harry's partner in crime. But we're talking about the Adam Lambert. He's slightly more flamboyant than I am. That's a good word to use for there. Let me just have a looky hooky. No worries. Here we go. Big man's in the house. Let me just go up. There we go. How we doing, Craig? Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. I can hear you now.
Oh, excellent. That's better. That's better.
How are we doing, I was just trying to open it up on my laptop, and I was trying to send myself links, and yeah, but I'm sorted now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's right, buddy.
How are we? I can tell that you're in your gym because I had the delight, the pleasure.
I'm not in my gym at the moment. I'm in my office.
Oh, it looks remarkably like your gym.
Well, I tried to make it look a little bit. I mean, it's not a great office, but that's the job.
So is that at the gym anywhere?
Yeah, it's just literally next door. So like this wall here, the gym's behind that wall.
Okay.
We had like a little storage cupboard next to it, and the school was using it, but I was just like, can we have that as an office space because it's freezing here in the winter?
Yeah. Amazing. Well, yeah. Anyway, Craig, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, man.
No worries.
So I had the pleasure of meeting yourself a few weeks ago at Whataptive. At the Odyssey Throwdown. Love the word. You know, there's a film Odyssey coming out, don't you?
No.
Yeah, they're doing the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey. They're releasing a film all about it. I just thought, I'm a bit of a history buff myself. Or I like to think so. Nigel is in the chat and he said it's where his wife locks him away.
Oh, nice.
That's what we're working with.
Morning, Nigel. How you doing, mate?
So before we get into the adaptive division as a whole and go into specifics, I just wanted to introduce yourself, your background, and what led you up to the point of getting involved with the adaptive kind of functional CrossFit hybrid arena. So a bit of an elevator pitch about yourself, really. What's your name? Where'd you come from?
Sure. So my name's Craig, and I'm based in Thurrock, Essex. And yeah, that's my location where I'm. Depends how deep you want me to go into it. I could sit here for probably about 2 hours just rabbiting about what I do and how I do it and why I do it. But yeah, how deep do you want me to go?
Cool. So how about we talk about your background in sport, exercise, and then how you came to owning and operating a gym.
Okay. So I guess this is going quite far back now. Jesus Christ, when I was in school about 20 odd years ago now. So initially in school, I hated all sports: football, basketball, rugby, any form of activity. Didn't like it. Now, I don't know whether that was because it wasn't introduced to me in the appropriate way when I was younger, but I'm probably going to link it to that. So in school, hated sports. As I say, I'd done everything to get out of it. Forget my PE kit. I'd bunk off or whatever I need to do, go and hide in a cupboard somewhere. And then one day I remember we did, instead of doing football, we had a different PE teacher covering. We'd done a circuit class. And we all know, like, you know, CrossFit or functional fitness is essentially like a circuit class, right, for the most part. And I loved it. I come away, I was like, that was amazing. I really enjoyed that. That was brilliant. I loved the sort of the movements we did. We did like overhead press up, squats, all this sort of stuff. And I come away thinking, this is really cool. And for someone that never liked exercise, yeah, like I was like, wow, okay, maybe I actually quite enjoy this. The next PE lesson, straight on the field again, playing football. So I was like, okay, that was my experience to fitness over from a very young age. But you know what? Like, as I say, like there's a lot more being done in schools now, which I think is really cool. And if you could spark that interest at an earlier age, that's only going to carry on into adulthood, isn't it? But yeah, I guess off the backs of that, then a few more years later, carried on with school, didn't get involved in sports or anything like that. And it was just, what did I do? I started doing karate actually with my uncle. My uncle kind of took me under his wing, so to speak, as a bit of a father figure. And we started doing karate together. Then he set up a little gym in his garage. And we started training in there. And then I guess that's where my passion for fitness started to really come from, because I sort of saw the impact for me as someone that was a bit lost at that age, to have some like a mentor or like a father figure that would guide me. And it weren't just about the fitness. We'd chat about other stuff, and you know, like becoming a young man, we'd talk about certain bits and pieces. And I guess for me, I was like, wow, I've seen what my uncle did for me. Can I do that for other people? And that's when I explored the option of going and doing a personal training course. Done my PT course, fast forward like a couple of years, started working in a college gym, just doing gym inductions and stuff like that. Started really enjoying it. And then, you know, training your sort of your regular folk, doing like, you know, getting ready for holidays, and I've got a wedding coming up, I need to shift a bit of timber, and yeah, it sort of carried on like that for a number of years. Progressed onto some more functional fitness sort of side of the thing. So I weren't a CrossFit gym, but it was a strength and conditioning gym at the time. Started doing that. I thought, wow, this is really cool. Like, I love the structure. Like, everyone comes in, you do the whiteboard brief, you go through the warm up, you go through the workouts. I was like, this is really cool. It follows a really cool format. And then the community side of things I really enjoyed as well. I was like, wow, this is really bringing people together. Fast forward, went on to coaching the CrossFit gym, did my level 1 and everything, and then it was kind of the power that I guess we had in the strength and conditioning gym, but on a bigger scale, because it was not just confined to that box. It was global, you know what I mean? Like, it had a bigger impact. So I was like, oh, this is really cool as well. It was around about COVID. Obviously, we all got hit hard by COVID. I came out of that and I thought, I can't do CrossFit. I can't do functional fitness anymore, because I didn't sign up to do online coaching. That's not what I wanted to do. So I had a chat with my brother, and I went and worked down the docks for 2 years as a mechanic. So I completely come out of it. I went, nah, that's it. This is me now. I'm a grease monkey. I'm just going to fix lorries. And it wasn't until I think about 2 years into that a woman reached out to me. She messaged me on Facebook, and she said, oh, I've got a young boy. His name's Jay. He's got cerebral palsy. He's actually next door at the moment. He's got cerebral palsy. Would you be interested in training him? I've heard you've trained a couple of people with like a couple of health conditions before, which I did, like someone with a spinal cord injury, very minor one. So it weren't like he was in a wheelchair or anything like that. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. Like, you know, I've got a lot of skills to offer, so let's see what happens. Turns out this individual was a lot more complex than I first anticipated. He not only had cerebral palsy, he was deaf, had a few other different conditions. So there was a lot of sort of components there. So I remember that weekend before I trained him, went to Decathlon, which is a local sports store. I bought a plyometrics box, little one, because I knew he'd have to sit down. I bought some gym flooring, like the spongy stuff you get in Halfords, and I kitted out my garage gym. If you go far enough back on my Instagram, you'll see my little garage gym. It's essentially a replica of what we've got now, but on a smaller scale.
Amazing.
So I started training Jay. Jay come, met it. I went to his house, met him, had a chat. And we arranged some PT sessions. So he came along to my house, started doing some sessions. And I thought, this is really cool. Like, for me as a coach, and any coaches out there, I guess we see problems and we want to fix them and find solutions, right? And I think with Jay, it was sort of exacerbated a bit. So like Jay had a lot more problems and a lot more things to fix. And for me, that was really intriguing. I was like, wow, okay, he doesn't move like everyone else. How can we get the same stimulus, but with him moving in an alternative way, hence the name Alternative Movement? And then it sort of popped, and I was like, wow, okay, this is really cool. And I remember that, I guess a few months after training him, I was always shy about talking on camera. I wouldn't, like, it would take me about 300 takes to do one thing. And I pulled my camera out, put it on a tripod, sat there, and then I introduced myself. My name's Craig, based in Thurrock. I'm looking at giving people with disabilities new and creative ways to train. If you're interested, reach out, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, next thing, loads of people started following us. And you normally find within the disability community, you probably witnessed this yourself, it's very tight-knit. Everyone's very close. And I had like another parent reach out to me and say, I've seen you've been training Jay. Would you mind training my boy? Fantastic, come along. Next thing, another person. Before I knew it, I had 5 or 6 clients, all with disabilities, all with cerebral palsy, but very varying sort of degrees of it. So it was interesting. Once again, like, this person Jay was nothing like the next person. So I was having to constantly think of new ways and different things and different ways of communicating with them. After that, obviously, I was having a chat with another client, and he said to me, is there any like group sessions I can go to, whether that's, I don't know, like wheelchair rugby, or I don't know, a fitness session for people with disabilities? I went, I don't know, mate, let me have a look, I'll see what I can find. Looked in a local area, nothing. So I was like, okay, then something needs to be done, right? So I started reaching out to some village halls. I found this little village hall, and it was a village hall, like the floor smelt of beer, and it was all sticky and horrible, but it was a starting point. I couldn't fit that many people in my garage. So I was like, okay, let's hire this village hall out. I said, like, look, I'm running a wheelchair weightlifting club. Who wants to come? Anyway, so I had like 5 or 6 people come along, fantastic. Then 7 and 8, then 9 and 10. All of a sudden, I had loads of people. I was like, oh shit, like, I've got a lot of people coming to my classes now. What do I do? So at the time, I was having a conversation with a guy in a CrossFit gym, and he said, like, oh, I've got a bit of space here during the day, because that's when I was running my sessions, if you fancy it. So I started building it there. Next thing you know, I had, Jesus Christ, like 20, 30, building up to 40 people coming along. Then I had organizations reaching out saying, oh, we've got like day opportunities where we bring groups of 10, 15 individuals with disabilities. Can we come and do a class? Fantastic, come along. They're still with me today. I had local schools reaching out to us saying, I've seen what you've been doing on Instagram. Would you like to come and do some stuff in the school? Hence why we're based here now. I started running like after school clubs. I started running, this is predominantly for people with disabilities, and after school clubs, one-to-ones, loads of bits and pieces. And then I got into a conversation with a head teacher, and he said, how can we get you here more permanently? I was like, okay, well, this is what it would look like. They had a couple of rooms in the school. That was quite small, but I was like, you've got a fantastic minibus garage over there. What about that? And anyway, so we planted the seed. They loved the idea. And fast forward 2 years later, we're now based at Treetop School in Thurrock, where we have our own box. Once again, if you go on Instagram, you'll see our box. And we have now got sort of 2 companies operating side by side. Alt Movement, which is all the adaptive stuff. Good Lifting Co., which is predominantly based around Olympic lifting, the functional fitness scene. And there is points where we cross over. So we've kind of created a really inclusive space to train. And even not just that, like opportunities for coaches as well. And that was always my goal, not just to create opportunities for people with disabilities, was to create careers and opportunities for coaches to come into fitness, because you and I know as well that it's quite hard to have a full-time job in fitness. I've got 5 or 6 coaches now that have got full-time jobs coaching between adaptive and able-bodied. We run all the able-bodied stuff in the mornings and evenings, and then the adaptive stuff all throughout the day. So we're quite busy here. And yeah, it just, for me, the adaptive stuff, it just resonated more. I could make more of and I could see I weren't just making an impact on that individual. It was the impact that carried across the board into their families. Like they're becoming more able, they're able to do stuff for themselves. And it weren't just teaching them the fitness side of things, it was teaching them the functional skills that they need to navigate an able-bodied world. Because I think that's one, you can't expect the able-bodied world to adapt for a small group of people. And that's not me saying it in a bad way, but that's quite a big ask, you know what I mean? And I want to give the guys with the disabilities and the adaptive athletes the tools to navigate this world, and in doing so, I feel like then we can teach able-bodied people how to be more inclusive and how to make spaces more inclusive, whether that's in gyms, whether that's in public settings, whether that's for the home, anything like that, because you don't see it. Like I didn't see it at first. Like I would walk down the road, go to the shop, absolutely fine. As soon as I started training people with disabilities, we go, oh, should we go to the shop, or like should we go for a push around the block? And all of a sudden, you don't notice how many people leave bins out, how many people park up on curbs, how many lack of drop curbs there are. And these guys are running into these issues day to day. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to teach.
And, you know, first of all, thank you for that massive introduction. And
sorry, I rabbit a lot.
No. Perfect. And I'm sure I speak for everyone that's kind of come across Alt Movement and your impact. You've done an incredible thing. Abby introduced this concept to me a little while ago while stood watching Ben doing strict muscle ups at Wadaptive. Like he did like 50 million unbroken, and I was just like, I was just sort of stood there doing this, and Abby looked over and she just said, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And we got talking, and she reintroduced the phrase unconscious bias, because that phrase, it's something that historically I've heard and I've sort of shuddered, and I've thought, ugh, don't like that term, because it put me on the back foot. It made me feel like I was being pointed at or feeling bad or your shit or whatever it might be. It just, all I'd heard from that historically, because I didn't listen, was I'm a bad person, right? And then Abby introduced it and said, the reason you haven't had to deal with this is because you haven't had to deal with it. And when you're programming, when you're thinking about everyday occurrences, when you're going through life, you haven't had to think about this kind of thing. So you've got a bias towards what you know, and we've all got that. And it's really interesting, actually. I was having a conversation yesterday with a client of mine, Marina. Now I live on the Isle of Man. She's one of the head of psychiatry on the island. And she's a mixed race lady. So she's half black, half white. And what happened at the BAFTAs last week, the week before, with the Tourette's incident on stage? Were you aware of all that? Did you see all that?
To be honest, I don't watch a lot of TV.
No. So a guy called Johnny, who's been involved in TV, a Scottish guy, he's got kind of a full-blown Tourette's. So he's had to live his entire life with Tourette's syndrome. There's a point to all this, by the way. And they've recently made a film about his upbringing and his life. And
wait, I think I know what film you're on about. Yeah. Didn't he get in one of the scenes? He gets put in prison for having it. Is that what I'm thinking?
Yeah,
not prison, but like in a cell.
Yeah. And so the actor and the film won BAFTAs last week. So the real Johnny was in the crowd, obviously with his Tourette's. And Michael B. Jordan, who is a Black American actor, was on stage receiving his award. And from the crowd, Johnny's Tourette's let out the N-word, right? Quite loudly, live on telly. And since then, there's been this huge discussion and debate online about Tourette's, about what it is. And what it's done is open the door to this unconscious bias of people assuming things about Tourette's syndrome, about this disability. And it's opened the doors. And a lot of people have come out and said, well, I thought I knew what it was, but my bias is leaning away from this because it's two things at once. It's a bit of a shit situation. You know, the N-word shouted out on live TV for millions to watch with a black actor on stage, and then a guy with Tourette's. It's kind of like this juncture of two things coming together. Now, I was talking to my client Marina, who is a mixed race lady who's head of psychiatry on the Isle of Man, and I was like, I need to hear what you've got to say about this, because this is you're a perfect person to ask about this. And she said, and it drew me back to what you've just said about not knowing about something. It's okay to not know about something, but when you're exposed to the fact that you don't know something and have ignorance and there's an issue and you've got unconscious bias, the problem becomes if you're not willing to action that and continue on without having adapted or changed or giving help or assistance to people that you are now understanding need that assistance or would really appreciate that assistance. And in our industry, it's very, very, very easy to see why coaches, able-bodied coaches like yourself, like me, wouldn't pursue that line of thought, wouldn't go down the route of helping people with disabilities, wouldn't go the extra mile, wouldn't put on classes, wouldn't go to B&Q and grab some flooring and adapt for a young lad called Jay. It's easy to see why that would happen, but people like yourself, trailblazers like yourself, are demonstrating the fact that with some work, with hard work, with a dedication to the cause, it can be done and it should be done. And it's so cool when we see people like yourself in our industry that have done that and can lead the way. And so on that basis, a massive thank you from our community, because we need people like yourself. There's a lady that I love and adore, and there's a good friend of mine, Athena Perez, who's an American lady who owns and operates a company called Scaled Nation, which has some parallels to what you do. She works with morbidly obese people and tries to get them into the functional fitness gyms, into CrossFit gyms. She's an affiliate owner herself. And I've heard all of the trials and tribulations she's had trying to marry up what CrossFit say and do and put out, and then what she has to do with her athletes that are and her members that are morbidly obese. And sometimes there's an adaptation that has to be made there that isn't quite what CrossFit put out. So the adverts, for example, and the messaging that was put out tail end of last year, we have the cure, it didn't resonate quite well with a lot of people. I get what they were saying. I know what they were trying to get at, but the language and the positioning that went out online didn't really marry up with what she was trying to say. So what were your thoughts when you saw all that, all the messaging last year? Was it similar to what kind of how I would have perceived it? Or because you've got a very unique position where you're already embedded heavily in the adaptive division. How did you perceive that messaging?
Remind me exactly, I guess.
So there was a big push from CrossFit HQ online, and they were talking about we have the cure, and a lot of people that aren't able-bodied that require there is no cure. There is no cure for what they have. They saw that as a bit of a, well, you haven't got the cure for what we've got. So and we do CrossFit. So there was this kind of misalignment with the messaging and what the like adaptive divisions and morbidly obese people were having to go through. It didn't impact too much, but there was a massive emphasis and a celebration of this marketing campaign. And it kind of felt like it was a bit of a nudge away for a lot of people that attended CrossFit gyms and and lived the CrossFit ethos, but didn't quite align with them. I don't know if you saw any of that or not, but
yeah, I'm just trying to think. So I guess it goes back to the CrossFit side of things, and I think who did I listen to that said something that's really interesting that actually resonated really well with me? It was I think it was Chris Cooper, or it might have been someone else that said this. Do you know Chris Cooper? Two Brains. I can't remember if it was him or someone else now, but I might be misquoting the wrong person. But he said that CrossFit is not a fitness company; it's a media. Or would that have been Greg Glassman?
Both of them have said it.
Yeah. So that sort of changed, I guess, my perspective of things, because even when you're doing a sales campaign, what's the most important thing? You've got to resonate with that individual, and if you're not resonating with that individual, and we've not got the people out there, like that you can go, oh, that's me. That's why we're so heavily involved in our social media has been terrible for the past couple of months. I've been so busy, but like I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to show stories of these individuals and their development throughout their journeys. And then I wanted people to look, and maybe that's where CrossFit has done really well with the able-bodied community, but I feel like it's still got a bit of work to do with the adaptive community. Don't get me wrong, like there's been some really cool stuff with the adaptive community side of things recently, but I still feel like that's got a long way to go in terms. Are you pulling up my social media? There's me and Jay there.
That is so cool to see, though. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
I'll bring that up.
Please do. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest part is you kind of want to see yourself in there, right? You want to see that's me, that's where I want to be, and if there's nothing that reflects that or very little, it's going to be hard, I guess, for this demographic to resonate with that message.
Yeah, I've the last couple of years I've had the privilege of started working with a couple of adaptive athletes, predominantly for bench, so power bench weightlifting, through my connections with British weightlifting. And I had my first experience of traveling with a disabled person. So Claire is a wheelchair user, and getting on and off the island on a plane through to Dublin Airport to then compete at the Irish Open powerlifting. It, like, you know damn well how this would feel, but it was jaw-dropping and eye-opening about what was normal for her. It took 4 hours to get from the airport onto the plane, and it was non-stop. It was queues. It was this. It was that. It was having to find the lifts or the elevators. But everything that she has to deal with normally, I was like, "But this is like real hard work." And it was getting to the actual event was a whole ordeal in itself. The travel was like this 4 hour bloody ordeal for me, coming from someone that just jumps on a plane and just does it in half an hour. And that is every day. And it's something you said earlier about like just going to the shops and seeing how bins are in the way and stuff like that. All of a sudden the blinkers are taken off and you're like, whoa, like we need to do everything that we can to assist these people because life is fucking harder, much, much, much harder for them. And we need to do what we can to assist. And what I was saying earlier about Marina, the psychiatrist, was her words really resonated with me. It was like, the problem isn't that you don't know there's a problem. The problem is when you know there's a problem and you don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And so it's not finger pointing to coaches. It's not your shit for not doing this. It's here's all the information. Here's everything you need to know. Find out all this stuff. And this is what I love about Alt Movement. And I really want to make sure that we get as many gyms exposed to what you do. Because if we can imagine if we got every CrossFit affiliate in the UK, one Alt Movement trained coach who was there specifically to get disabled people into the gym and teach them what we do. That would be miraculous. That would be a complete game changer for the entire UK. And is that something that you would like to see? Is that
100%? Yeah, 100%. I guess that's my next step. Now we're in a position now where everything's sort of, running. We've kind of got the business model. That's kind of my next step. I'd love to go around and start educating, whether that's going into boxes and saying, look, this is how we do it, running courses, running workshops, seminars, anything I can do to start educating. Because it's like if someone come into your box with a broken leg and they still wanted to train, what would you do with them? You know what I mean? You would adapt the movements, right? If someone came into your box with the use of one arm because they're, I don't know, had a brain injury from a young age, that's a little bit more of a different question. Like, whoa, okay, I can't deal with this person. But for some reason, just because someone's got it, we do it every session, do we not? Like, guys, any injuries? Yeah, I've tweaked my ankle. Okay, today you're not going to be doing this exercise. You're not going to do box jumps. Like, it's the same thing. Like, we start the class, like, I run my classes with up to 10, 15 people, and every single person is different. So we have the workout, which is the overall workout. This is whatever it is. but it's going to look very different. So at that point, we explain the workout. Everyone breaks off into maybe different groups, maybe on their own. We go over with a whiteboard, give them their adaptations, take them through the warm-up, like very briefly. They all know what to do. We've kind of educated them around the warm-ups and stuff like that, because we can't do a generic warm-up for that class. And that's it, like simple as that. And it's a little bit more fast-paced. You're a little bit more like vigilant, because obviously any point, it was quite funny the other day, my client's Abby, she was doing squats but assisted with a bar, and she's got CP, so all I can hear in the back, I'm just having a chat with someone while they're doing a workout, and she's going, Craig. I turn around and she's hanging off of this bar, like almost falling over, and I'm like, shit. So I ran over to her, got her, sat her down, and went, you're right, she was absolutely knackered. She must have been there for about a minute or two, like hanging on to this position. But I sat and went, you okay? She went, yeah, I just got a bit scared, like I fell back and stuff like that, which, stuff like that happens. And but I came away from that session actually, and I sat down and reflected, and I was like, do you know what, like that was really shit, and I feel really bad that I didn't actually see that and prevent that from happening. But if she wasn't doing this training with us today, or for the past 3 years, there is no way she would have been able to hold herself on the bar for 2 minutes whilst I was having a chin wag with someone over in the corner. So actually thinking about it, I was like, actually, we've given her the tools. Now, if she's in public and that happens, she knows that she's got the ability to stop herself from hurting herself.
Yeah.
And I came away from that session actually thinking, even though I fucked up, I've done a good job.
always see the positives in things. That's good.
Yeah.
One thing you said there is, again, Abby talked about this with me a couple of weeks ago on the show, the word fear. So actually, Nigel talked about this when he was on the show 10 of last year. And what he said was, and Rachel, Scottish Rachel, that I know well, who attends Wadaptive and the adaptive games, they talked about this same thing where, and Abby talked about it, that adaptive athletes at competitions, and therefore in your gym, they're given license to fail, they're given license to be vulnerable, they're given license to have fits, to push their bodies to the extreme, because they know they're surrounded by people that, one, understand, two, are willing to allow it to happen, not cushion them all the time, and treat them like humans. And what it is there's a fear from uneducated people, and I'll include myself here. When we see disabled people, we have an instinct to sort of protect them. It's like, I don't want you to fall over. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want this to happen. But what is offered in the adapted divisions in CrossFit and gyms like yours is a safe space where they can have instances like that. And it's encouraged because they are training for life outside of the gym and getting stronger, and they're able to push those boundaries. And that is really, really bloody unique, because where else do they get that in life? Where else are they given that opportunity to explore this? Like able-bodied people are. We fling around on gymnastics rigs, dive underneath heavy barbells, and flip upside down. Like, where else do you? That's pushing the boundaries. That's that is the same. That is the same stuff. So those adaptations are exactly what I want. And there's this fear with able-bodied coaches like myself of working with disabled people, because one, we don't want to get caught out, two, we don't want to say the wrong thing, and three, we don't want to exasperate previous conditions. We don't want to be seen to sort of making things worse. But this is where the education comes in, and this is where letting down that barrier. But in order to do that, we need to feel educated and have an understanding of who we're working with. And also, I found this with Claire, is working together as a team. Let's explore this. Let's find things we can do. Let's find things we can't do. That kind of approach. And do you know what, Craig? One thing that you touched on a minute ago as well, earlier on, is what the adaptive division does, and the adaptive training, obviously, is it typifies it's the extremes of what CrossFit prides itself on. Coaching, adaptation, community, and intensity. So those four things are what makes CrossFit. Those four things are what we pride ourselves on. That's what makes us different from everyone else. And you think of those four things, in the adaptive divisions, they are taken to the absolute extreme. The programming, like I was watching, and the adaptations that were made by you guys in the lanes that were adaptive, it was genius. And as a coach, like a problem solving, like, you know, that logic of, right, how are they going to marry this up for this adaptation to be made to get the intensity and the stimulus correct and married up and between pub. And it was amazing. It was genius. So the programming, the coaching, watching you guys in your gyms on your video, coaching with adaptive athletes, it's some of the best coaching out there, because like you've said a minute ago, with the WOD briefings and the going away and learning and understanding, you've got 20 different people with 20 completely different conditions and adaptations that you have to make. In a regular able-bodied class, you might have to do 2 adaptations. You might have to scale it slightly for people because of loads, but you're not working anywhere near as hard to adapt and make different changes and tweaks. It's a real extreme version of what we do. The community, like you said earlier, like WODaptive was so cool. There were 0 egos in that room. It was the complete opposite of ego. It was pure community. And it was beautiful. And it was like early days CrossFit in there for me. Like really, like 2012, 2013 CrossFit when I started. Every time I'd go to a local throwdown or a comp, it was genuine community there. Everyone was there for everyone else. We were exploring and celebrating the stuff that we do. And somewhere along the line, that veered away a little bit in regular able-bodied competitions. But at WODaptive, it was there and it was alive and it was beautiful. And it was the extreme of what CrossFit is. And the intensity, like watching like everyone working out, was amazing. Like everyone, whatever the adaptations they had, you could see they were bloody working hard. Like I was watching Dolly and her dad in the far lane, and her mum, Fleur, I think the mum's name was, like filming it with a tear in her eye, watching her husband and her daughter working out together, just working really, really hard. It was beautiful. And like I said, it was the really extreme and exaggerated version of what CrossFit should be. And it was beautiful to watch, and it was a pleasure to be in that environment watching it again.
I think that's where it's going to work, that's how it's got to work if CrossFit wants to promote the adaptive side of things more, and it's bringing it back to exactly as you just said there, bringing it back to the people. Like we see all the celebrations within CrossFit of like the athletes, you know, the top tier guys and what they can do. And once again, people can't resonate off them with that. It's like, that's never going to be me. And WODaptive was, and like that's what it was always meant to be. It was meant to be that stepping stone where you can come into fitness, like you can come in as a partner, like you can bring a pair in, so you can bring someone you're comfortable with, because not a lot of disabled people are confident going into things on their own. Okay, so bring a friend, bring your father, bring, I don't know, someone else at your box, or if not, we'll find you someone. And it just gets you through the door. And I think with WODaptive now, it's at the point where it can start to look at breaking off into individual comps, because we've got so many people through the door, so many people exposed to this type of training and created that awareness. Now it can be like, okay, right, actually, I feel quite confident to go to an able-body, to an individual, more advanced competition. And I feel like if it weren't for WODaptive, that growth would take a little bit longer.
Yeah, for sure. The whole ethos of us was exactly that, Craig. Yeah, that's big Nige there. So here's the thing then. So do you think your typical CrossFit gym, like yours, like that was one of the first things when I first walked in? Not only the smell of that pizza that went on right outside, it was amazing. The first thing that I saw when I walked in your gym was it looked no different from a regular CrossFit gym I've been in. I didn't know what I'd expect. I didn't know what to expect when I walked in. And it was as if it was just a regular CrossFit gym that I'd walked into. And I was looking around thinking, where are the adaptive stuff? And then and I was like, oh, okay. And then we had a chat and we talked about that. And do you think that CrossFit gyms like yours offer a unique playground for adaptive athletes that not regular Globo gyms don't have the opportunity to do?
Yeah, I feel like it does. Like that's going back to that point I made in terms of we can't expect the world to change for a small group of people. But what we can do is give the world tools in how to, or give the guys tools on how to adapt that world around them. And that's why I wanted to keep it sort of bare bones, like, you know, your regular strength conditioning CrossFit style gym. And that's it. We'll just have a rig. We'll have our barbells. We'll have some med balls, slam balls, wall balls, some plates, random bits and pieces. We do have a few specific bits, like we'll have some parallel bars to help people with walking, but they can be used for other stuff. We have, you know, your split ropes, a few other little bits and pieces. But other than that, we don't have a lot of specialized equipment. If you're going to go and buy some specialized equipment, you better have deep pockets, buddy, because it's expensive. It's expensive setting up a gym anyway, let alone buying these fancy bits of kit. But that's the thing, like, I feel like the regular sort of, you know, your commercial style gyms, if we go into them, there's a lot of fixed resistance machines. They might have like a squat rack or a few other bits and pieces, but for the most part, it's all fixed resistance, and it's fixed resistance for an able-bodied person. So with our one, it can be a bit more of a playground. Like, okay, right, what can we do with a band? What can we do with a barbell? What can we do with a plate? Like, how can we simulate a real world environment within the gym and make it a functional fitness session? So once again, that's what excites me. It allows me to be more creative, more exploratory. Like even using my phone the other day. So I've got one client, she has a condition called FND, so functional neurological disorder, which means that it affected, Nigel knows it ain't cheap. Which means it affected her ability to walk. Now, she could walk, but she could only walk with the assistance of her hands by pulling her legs along. And I was like, right, okay, what's going on here? Like, how can we start to get her to understand? Like, can you feel your legs? No. Can you, like, if I touch them, can you feel them? No, can't feel them at all. Can you lift them up? Couldn't even extend her leg. Right, okay. So what we did is obviously a neurological condition. So I filmed her. We started off, I moved the leg for her. Then what I would do is I'd get her to watch the video, and then she would attempt to move her leg. Very slowly. There is a couple of videos on my Instagram, but very slowly she managed to start to extend the leg. And it was a similar process of someone that had a stroke, you know, through the mirror in the middle. So mirror in the middle, and they'll try and mimic that hand with that hand. Now she can walk, she can do marches, she can hold kettlebells whilst doing like marches and stuff. And all, like, she still can't feel her legs, but because she's recreated that pathway between her brain and her legs, she understands that connection a lot better. And like every day she comes in, she's like, Craig, you won't guess what I can do now. I can walk backwards. She hasn't walked backwards in 7 years. She's been to all these physios, she's been to all of these specialists, and all it took is some idiot in a gym just to start doing some weird stuff, and all of a sudden it just clicked. And that's because maybe we're not coming from a medical background, we're coming from more of a coaching background, a curious, inquisitive background. Like we're looking how to, rather than this is how it's always been done, so let's do it like this. And it's more of a personal level. You know, people come into the gym because they feel more comfortable. And that's why I always say, like, any physios that's reached out, we did get a little bit of stick off of some of the physios in the local area until we started getting results. And they was like, right, what you doing? But we got a lot of stick because we were sort of doing stuff a little bit creative outside the box. And some of these kids that we work with, and which are young adults now, have been to physios all their life. Like, they've been pulled about. They go to this whitewash room and it's a medical setting. There's no music, and they're just sitting there like, do this, stretch here, stretch that. And like, they weren't enjoying it. And that's the thing, what we was doing, creating an enjoyable environment to come into, which was fun, community-based, music's pumping. We're not judging you on your disability. When you walk through this door, you will be treated like anyone else. You will get the same sort of abuse that we would give a normal member. Like, I don't like to use the term, but an able-bodied member, sorry. Like, we're not going to treat you any different, so don't expect any special treatment. And what that happened is because people was enjoying it, they started to want to come to us. So then, as a Trojan horse of that, they was getting their physio, but they was actually wanting to come to it. And I think that's the most important thing of the program is actually doing the program. Like, if you don't do the program, you don't stick to it or adhere to it, it's not going to work. No. So I feel like for us, the gym has become a massive playground. I thrive when there's like limited equipment and all these health issues. I'm like, sweet, let's figure this out.
Yeah. Hello, Sean. Beautifully said. And after a while of doing CrossFit coaching and understanding what we actually offer, like with functional fitness, it's a bit like resistance training so much as it meets you where you're at. So no matter where you're at, we adapt for you to then progress you forward. That's how what we do, it matters, right? And how we work. But CrossFit coaches are a little bit different in so much as we enjoy a challenge. Like
Yes.
we put ourselves through it. Like we go to the gym to challenge ourselves, not just to put headphones in and do bicep curls. Like we are there for something different. And I think we're very inquisitive by nature. Like you're good trainers. This is, you know, if you go to a gym and you've got an injury, like an able-bodied person walking in with like Sean tweet. I think it sounds like he's fractured his wrist doing rings, silly bollocks over the weekend with the Open. And being a trainer at a gym, Sean, someone able-bodied walking in with a wrist injury. For me now, I love that because I get to think differently. I get to figure stuff out. It's not just cookie cutter 5x5 back squats. He gets to use the safety bar today. I get to get the safety bar out and have someone use the bit of kit that gets used once a blue moon. And you get to think differently, and it challenges you. And I love that feeling of at the end of the session, that person being able to walk out having had a really decent session and thinking, yeah, I can go to the gym. Like I can do that. And that is massively exaggerated in the adaptive divisions. Like people that are told elsewhere in life, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, feeling that they get to rock up at our gyms, roll in or walk in and be able to be told you can do that. Here's how we're going to make it work. Here's how we're going to make it fit you. And they get to have the same experience as we have, like able-bodied people. And I absolutely adore that. And we are in a unique position for that. And coupled with that, oh, I was going to get your take on this as well. Abby raised a good point. The L1, we've got this scientific document to go hand in hand to explore what we do. Right now, I approached this with Abby, and Abby said in the comments the other day, do we need like a New Testament of the L1 for all the adaptive divisions? Do we need an adaptive L1, something to explore the uniqueness of that? Is there room for
it? I feel like there could be something added onto the level 1 course, definitely, because even if it's from an injury standpoint, right, you don't necessarily go through injuries within the level 1. I know it's quite a short course, and you know what, I got a lot from the course, even though it was only over 2 days. I did get a lot from it, but I guess I didn't get a massive amount in terms of the adaptive side of things, because I think at the time I was very, very early into the adaptive stuff in terms of level 1. So absolutely, even if it was like, I don't know, a couple of hours, just look, this is how we adapt some movements. If you've got an injury, this is how we adapt the movement for a wheelchair user. And then even just having that small bit on it, that could definitely have like a huge impact on gyms, just feeling confident and having the ability to welcome people through their doors.
Yeah, and like Sean's put, I'm surprised there isn't a CEU class like kids or gymnastics or weightlifting, one of those that is offered like this. And again, that's our unconscious bias. We've never had to think about this. Well, I haven't. Sean hasn't. Like you obviously have. We've never had to think about that. And as soon as you start thinking about it, like, well, why isn't there? Like, why haven't we got that? Like, and even if you want to go down the route, and I'm not saying this is right, but even if you were thinking that, you know, like Two Brain put a lot of emphasis on financial structures, and if you go after the financial, everything else you'll make it work. You'll find new ways, and that's the great thing about Two Brain. Even if you think financially as a gym, like you've got a whole massive category of people that will be willing and able to get to your gym and to train and be members at your gym that you are completely missing out on because of what? Because unwilling to educate. And this is and or that fear that we talked about, that fear of putting yourself out there and doing that kind of thing. I personally think we are in a completely unique position to offer this life-changing methodology to a whole and I talk about a category of people. Obviously, there are multiple categories within the adaptive division, but if you classifying it as adaptive CrossFit, there are so many people. We've seen so many gyms in the last year or so do over 60s, silvers clubs, whatever you want to call it, and it's huge. Like the amount of people over 60 that are getting in and doing strength training now. Why not the same emphasis? But again, CrossFit have done a good job of getting a cookie cutter template approach to functional fitness and putting that out there. And it's taken people like yourself to raise the game and to produce these courses and produce this education that I think CrossFit would be really unwise to not leverage that and to not use that and to not associate themselves and bring that to the forefront.
I mean, for me personally, I've never done this for the financial reasons. Like,
no,
you know what I mean?
no,
I
no,
need
no,
money to live,
no.
but this has always been a passion of mine.
Mm.
And if we are, you hit the nail on the head there, but if we are looking at gyms of how to make more revenue, because if we look at a lot of boxes, as we say, we have the morning classes, we have the mid-morning classes, we have the evening classes. The rest of the day might have a few PTs, but mostly it's dead space. We're busy back to back. I can hear a group in there screaming their heads off at the moment because they're in there doing a workout at 10 a.m. Is it 10 a.m? What time is it? Yeah. They're in there having a great time. You know what I mean? And we're going to be back to back from 6 a.m. till about 8, 9 p.m. at night. And we're fully booked. Like, that's why we've got coaches that have got full-time careers in this now. And if gyms are going to go, we're not too interested in the adaptive stuff, if they are interested in bringing in more revenue, then you better start getting interested in adaptive stuff, because there's a lot of people that want to train that don't, and they have the funding, or if they don't have the funding, the local authority could potentially fund them to come and train, because they do. It's just a simple conversation with one of their social workers saying, look, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to use my funding for. Is that possible? As long as you give them a nice write-up and say, look, this is the benefits, this is the pros, this is the cons, etc., risk assessment, boom, they'll more than likely fund that. And once they fund that, they'll fund that for a long time. And that's what we've done. We've just got in contact with a local authority. We're funded by adults and children educational healthcare, NHS as well. We're funded now by them because they've seen what we do. They've seen the impact we have on these individuals' lives, and it's saving them money in the long run, because they're not having to pay for a lot more stuff, because these guys are getting fitter and more independent.
Yeah. The way that I see the money argument is, we're sat on the back of a donkey, right? And we want the donkey to go forward. If it means that carrot has to be financially driven, then do you know what? Fine. Whatever gets that donkey moving, let's go with that. Like, whatever that carrot might need to be. And if that is financial gain for the gyms to move forward, then do it. Let's go. Because as long as we're moving in the right direction and we're getting this education out there and inspiring people to get to the gym, brilliant. That's what we need. All right. So, Craig, I am a gym owner and I'm based in the UK, and I don't currently offer adaptive training. I mean, if someone walked in or rolled in and they asked, I would probably be able to somehow get them involved, but I haven't had any education. One, what would be your first step towards adapting? But two, what's the best route forward, and how would I get involved? Could I get involved with Alt Movement? Is it something that you offer at the moment?
In terms of helping gyms do this? It's something I could offer. Absolutely. I've got all the tools, I've got all the education, and I've done this for a long enough time now that I know exactly what I'm doing. Have I got a structure of what that looks like? Loosely in my head, not on paper. In terms of that question, are you asking how you as a gym would get people through the door, or what you would do if they came through the door, or both?
So I've decided that I want to do this. I've decided that I want to run an adaptive, one class a week to start. I'm dipping my toe in the water. I want to see if the demand's there, which we know it is. The demand's there, and I want to see how I can do as a coach getting these people through the doors. And how would you do that?
So I guess your first starting point, education. You need to understand, first of all, some basic adaptations, like how do we use a rower, how do we use a skier, how do we do seated snatches, dumbbell snatch, all the movements. Let's go through all them. Let's give you some confidence behind them, how to adapt them, how to safely spot people. Potentially, if you're running the classes as an individual adaptive class, then you would need a couple of coaches. You need at least a minimum, I'd say, of 2 coaches, maybe more to start with, just while you're getting your head around things and how things run, and learn all the movements. The other thing is language. Learn what language to use, because I think that's the most important thing. Like, people don't know how to communicate with someone with disability, and I'm sure anyone watching, Nigel, will probably agree with this as well. You'll find that people will talk to the person that the disabled person is with, rather than the person with the disability. And that's like, you're making people feel invisible, man. Like, straight away, if someone comes into your gym with a support, with a carer, whatever that may be, don't even talk to them. Well, obviously talk to them, acknowledge them, don't be rude. But like, that's person first. What's your name? Then we can find out a little bit more. I tend to, after the initial conversation, because I need to understand the client first of all. What's your impairment? How does it work? What's your limitations? Once that initial conversation's over, I inform all my coaches, and then they just Tell them suck it up. Initial conversation with my coaches, and then we don't discuss it anymore in the classes. That's it. We treat them as a person. We don't treat them as a disabled person. I think that's the first step, is educating the coaches. The second step would be look at what's in your local area. Like, for example, you want to look at like cerebral palsy groups, brain injury groups, stroke groups. Look at some like day opportunities groups. So there's like groups that bring in people with learning disabilities that would go and do activities throughout the day. And we've got people in them groups that come to these classes. They'll bring a group of people down, they'll do a session, and then they'll leave. It's what I'd say that's a very different story in terms of communication wise. The session's going to run very differently for a physical disability than it will with learning disabilities. That's a completely different area, I would say. Very similar in adaptations and stuff. You're going to keep movements very simple, but rather than having longer workouts, you might have shorter workouts. You might communicate the message. You might be a bit more playful, almost like the kids' classes, I guess. You'd be a little bit more like that. But nonetheless, veering away from that ethos and that methodology. Once you've started to reach out, because I feel like you need a very clear message, once you've started to reach out with these organisations, what you can offer, how that can help them, then just go from there. Whether, and as I say, if you want to run a separate adaptive class or a integrated one, that's going to be a little bit different as well, because then you've got to be mindful of your current members. You know what I mean? Because then that could add, especially if you've got people with wheelchairs going about, safety issues and stuff like that. So I kind of like to keep them separate for the most part, where we might have only small crossovers throughout the week, if that makes sense. So yeah. And then it comes down to the funding side of things. Like if the guys didn't have the money, because maybe a lot of their money goes on their care or their medical stuff, and the families can't go to work because they're supporting that individual. Okay, how do we get the funds? Okay, so you've got to reach out. If they've got a social worker, if they haven't got a social worker, let's teach them how to get a social worker. So we're not going to do all this for them, but we can guide them in the correct way and routes to go. It is, yeah, it's a chicken and egg situation. It's like, where do you start? And I think the main point is just start. Whether that's educating, whether that's reaching out to people and saying, this is what we're doing, would you be interested? It's just a starting point. And then when you've got one person through the door, just be consistent with that one person, because that one person will shortly become 2, 3, 4, 5. And before you know it, you've got a standalone class. Before you know it, you can start integrating. Because once again, with the integration terms side of things, we don't integrate everyone. We have a separate adaptive classes, but not everyone's disabled forever. Someone might be an amputee. And for 2 years, they might spend the time in that one class. And then, you know what, you can start coming to the able-bodied classes now, because you have got that skill, that knowledge, that ability, and then start integrating. So it's kind of like that funnel system. Yeah. Yeah, as I say, I could go very, very much deeper into this. And that's what I want to try and do. I'm sort of trying to put something together now as to what that offer would look like if I was to come in and support a gym in developing their adaptive community.
Because with all of it, like with all of the special groups, right, that we work with. So Athena Perez talked about this with Scaled Nation. She's set up Scaled Nation, and it's a CEU course now. So you get, I think, 10 points for having done the Scaled Nation. She doesn't offer it outside the US at the moment. Look into it. It takes someone that understands and has done the hard work to create the coursework, the opportunity for people to do it. And by the sounds of it, you're that guy. you're that guy that has the opportunity to put this on. And I think people, whether we like it or not, people won't commit to things these days. I include myself on this, until I know that I can do it. So until I know that I can work with adaptive athletes, I'm less likely to work with them, because I'm worried about that fear. That fear comes into it. And when someone like yourself has a structure in place, a recipe book of A, B, C, D, E, it becomes so much more clear in my head that I can do this from a coach's perspective, and gives me confidence in that. Just like we said about the L1. The L1 is basically a confidence piece to be a CrossFit trainer. Yeah. It's like, this is the education and the information to back up what you're doing, and we've got that. And the same with a course from Alt Movement, the same with all that education piece. That could be a game changer in the UK for our gyms. a massive
you
game
don't,
changer.
you don't need a lot. Like, as I say, like, could you honestly say that someone can go and do their level 1 and be the best coach ever? No, you can. It'll give you the starter pack, but it's the next 15, 20 years of you grafting in a gym, working with different people. That's the bit that makes you the good coach, right?
Yeah.
So I think the same applies for the adaptive stuff. You just need that little bit of confidence, that little booklet that says, this is how you do it, this is how you communicate. Off you go.
Yeah.
Go and get your first client.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so alt movement aside, I know it's hard to think that way. How do you see the next 5 years of the adaptive CrossFit? And I'm not talking necessarily about the sport, adaptive CrossFit. Where do you see it progressing? Like in specifically the UK, but you can go wide, you know, globally if you like. But specifically in the UK, how do you see the adaptive CrossFit division evolving over the next 5 years?
I feel like if, once again, going back to that, if you've got the right people in at the right time, doing the right things, like Nigel, the work he's doing at the moment, like he's putting some real groundwork in. I could not do his level of administration that he does and reaching out to people. And that's what makes WhatAptive so great, in terms of he will sit there, he will call people, he will say, right, what's your adaptations? What do you need? X, Y, Z. He'll come back to me, ask me things, get me to test things out. Like, you need people like that. You need people doing all of that legwork in terms of I guess the outreach side of things. You need someone like me on the gym floor, exploring, working with these different categories of people. And then you need everyone working together. I don't feel like you can keep this to yourself. I think a lot of people that go into this industry and do it for self-serving reasons will not excel. If you go into this industry and want to collaborate, work together, that's when you're going to excel. That's when you're going to help the sport grow. I feel like we need to put more emphasis on the everyday people. Like exactly what Active is doing. That's everyday people. Let's glorify that, make that look cool, get people to resonate with it. Then we can start to break off onto the individual stuff and the more advanced stuff, where it's the top level, top level athletes. In all honesty, I feel like if we do this right and we all work together and the gyms all pull together, it could be on par with something like the Paralympics for sure. And even like get to the point of being in par with the CrossFit Games, because I feel like at the moment I don't want to say this, but it feels like a bit of a side fault at the moment. And that's not blaming CrossFit, it's not blaming anyone, but it feels like, right, here's the games, so cool. Okay, here's the adaptive.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to glorify it a little bit more, because once again, if we can grow and put emphasis on the everyday people, grow the individual sport, then that's going to open up, create more awareness for the boxes, and they're going to go, oh, that's pretty cool. How cool would that be to have adaptive athletes in the gym? How can we find out more about this? Okay, reach out to Alt Movement, reach out to WhatAptive, reach out to these people. They'll teach you how to do it. It can both give more to the community. It can also bring in more revenue to the gym. And I feel like, it's got to be teamwork. It's got to be teamwork. And I think you're going to see a massive growth in the next 5 years within the adaptive industry. And like in the UK, especially, I'd love to be the person at the forefront and helping and supporting people and educating people. Yeah.
And I can't see why that wouldn't be the case. You know, we've got a massive history in the UK, like Stoke Mandeville with the the Para Games. Like we came out with it, and we've got a huge demand for that. Whenever it comes around every 4 years, I don't know if you went to London at all, like the Paralympics, but it was sold out. Like every seat was filled. It was there's a huge demand for it. We appreciate that. And the Invictus Games, you know, there's a huge demand for it, but we need to make sure that we're doing that for our community in CrossFit, you know? Now, I'm gonna bring us right back to the beginning of this conversation. Something you said about yourself when you were a kid. You weren't introduced well to sport. That was what kept you away from enjoying sport when you were a kid. An able-bodied kid wasn't introduced to sport, and you didn't enjoy it because of that. What can we do as a community to introduce people to disability sport better in the UK?
Would you be talking about from a school standpoint again?
Yeah, grassroots. So as a general community in the fitness industry, what can we be doing to get younger kids with disabilities, introducing them and making them enjoy sport?
That's quite. I think reaching out to schools first and foremost. So you have obviously special needs schools in terms you can reach out to, run some trial sessions as a community in a box. If you want to do some external sessions, definitely start there. I think a lot of the conversations I have with, especially some of the young, not necessarily younger clients, but the ones that have left school now, is they didn't feel included within sport because they've run a PE lesson and normally they'd be holding the clipboard or be getting to do something else in the corner of the room, which is really sad. But once again, do we blame the or do we blame the education? Because if you're not confident in working with someone with a disability, then you're not going to be able to excel. So I think definitely educating teachers, even if it's a small, I don't know, I'm assuming they do some sort of stuff within PE, having someone come in, even hire a coach from a functional fitness box to come in and show them some adaptations this individual can do. And I think that's the important thing, is from an early age, is exposing people to that from an early age and showing you can do this. Because especially you find with adaptive athletes, they don't tend to get into adaptive sports until they're a little bit later in life, and that's from my conversations. And I've had people come through the door. I've got one young lady, actually I've got her in today, her name's Zoe, and she's you see Zoe at the comp, she's got arthrogryposis. She what was her team name? I can't remember her team name now. So it affects her arms. Essentially, she's got very limited movement in her arms. Can't reach above her head. So she was sort of like pushed away from the physical activity side of things. And it wasn't until she came to the gym that we was like being a little bit creative. It was like, oh, I didn't realize I could do sports. I didn't realize I could do fitness. I didn't realize I could do deadlifts. Oh, this is cool. And I think that's the thing, like giving people, especially more option in school rather than just football. I don't know if that's just my school experience, but just giving them football, like, teach them about some functional fitness, teach them about back to front, as that was his. Sorry, I always forget the name. But also having that ability to educate the teachers around maybe some adaptive movements as well. It's a really hard one because within schools you might only have one or two people with a disability. And you don't want to single them out, but at the same time, you don't want to leave them left out.
No. And here's a scenario that could happen, right? So if you go to schools and let them know that you do adaptive or disabled people CrossFit sessions at your gym on the weekend, then little Jenny comes on a Sunday and over the course of a month attends and is educated on adaptations she can make for different things. She then goes to her PE lesson and says, teacher, I've been working on this. Here's what I can do. I want to participate in PE because I've learned these skills and I can work on them. Like there's this education loop that can be filled with the focal point being at our gyms, because we have this unique opportunity to be able to offer that. And all it comes down to is being able to educate the coaches and put an offering on at our gyms. And if we can do that, we can affect thousands and thousands of lives across the UK, like you've given examples of. And that comes down to the education piece. And be willing to be educated.
That's it.
Yeah. Craig, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. I know you've got classes going on all the time and you're due to go back, but really appreciate what you do as well. What you've done is give people like me a bit of a kick up the arse, and to say, come on, you can do better than that. So really appreciate that. It's really put me on a corrective course a little bit. And I really hope that give it a year's time, we can see some big things coming from you with Alt Movement and obviously Wadaptive. But I really do hope that we'll see your name discussed a little bit more over the next year or so, and we can see you more publicly advertised. But yeah, whatever help we can give, obviously just give me a shout. But it would be cool to speak to you about putting together something that I can do, because from personally, that example I gave earlier, that was me. I'm at the gym. I have downtime in the afternoon where I don't currently coach. I want to be able to put something on a class, but I don't know where to start. I work with individuals at the moment, but I don't have the confidence in how to get it moving. From someone like myself, I would love to talk to you offline and just see what I can do there and what changes I can make. I know you've spelled them out really well on the show, but something on those lines of being able to call myself an Alt Movement gym have an Alt Movement affiliation, have an Alt Movement class would be an incredible addition to the gym that I'm at. So, but we can talk about that offline. But Craig, thank you so much for your time.
Let's arrange it, and we can maybe you can tell me some of your pain points that maybe you would struggle with, and that might help me answer some questions as well. That'd be a good idea. Amazing.
All right, Craig. Well, Nigel, Sean, everyone in the chat, thanks for joining us today. Really hope you took something away from that. And Craig, thanks again. And I will end the stream.